Space, final frontier. These are the voyages of the starship Enterprise. Its 5-year mission, to explore strange new worlds, to seek out new life and new civilization, to boldly go where no man has gone before.
Greetings, salutations, and welcome to Retrek. I'm Captain Jim, and with me, of course, is Admiral Elliot.
Yeah.
And Dr. Squee.
And just a happy Wine and Geek Appreciation Day. So this is perfect.
Wine and Geek Appreciation Day.
Apparently, it's also Towel Day on the website where I found this out. So, but it's a Greek Appreciation Day separately. So, if anyone's watching Hitchhiker's Guide, I'd recommend the TV show, not the movie. But that's my personal taste.
Yeah.
And cracking open a bottle of wine, you are perfectly set for today. But talk about Star Trek with us first.
Yes. Yeah. We'll try and mention towels as we go through, but I don't know how we're going to do that. But we'll try.
Oh, come on. The engine room would have been a mess after this. They would have had to use several towels, I'm sure.
So we're talking about Ghosts of Illyria, which is episode 3 of Strange New Worlds. And so we talked about last week. We started with a personal log from a horror, and it was an horror episode. And then this week we start with a log from number 1, and it's a number 1 episode, which I think Elliot predicted last week when we said whose episode it's going to be. So well done. You get some sort of prize. I'm not sure what, but well done.
Just the feeling that you... I mean, 3 episodes in, the feeling that you're getting of those classic setups of episodes, but with new kind of effects is just wonderful. Like, it just feels so true to the original, but like you can basically do, like, this one's a lot like The Naked Now, The Naked Time, and a few other episodes are in there.
Yeah.
But it's done with modern effects and with modern sensibilities towards the kind of story you're telling, and it just works perfectly. It doesn't feel old hat, but it feels very reminiscent of something you love.
Yeah, so it feels familiar, but it's new at the same time.
Yeah. It's like a strange new world of an episode, you might say.
No, it is using like the tropes. Like, one of the things that people have been critical of the other series is that it's too serialized. It doesn't do standalone stories. You can't just pick out an episode and go, this is what it's about. Whereas this one, as soon as we're 5 minutes or so in, you're like, it's going to be a virus one.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I know what Star Trek virus episodes are like. I know what the setup is.
People are going to be going wacky on the ship again.
Which this is.
As soon as he was looking in a cupboard with flasks, and you could see the little dots of light dancing around.
Yeah, definitely.
The only thing that was missing was where was the buzzy sound?
Yeah.
You know which I mean, don't you?
Yeah, the TOS one. Yeah.
I mean, I did love the fact that, the focus for this was they were all attracted to light and they needed to be by light and they wanted to be within the light and all this. The only thing I missed from this is I did love the kind of I love the episodes where they get their personality altered. So they go on wacky things. Like, you'd have Scotty obsessed with Scotch and fighting, and you'd have Sulu wanting to fence everyone. I want one like that for this show. I want them to do another one of these where they have wacky personality things coming through.
Yeah, I think we'll get a wacky personality. So wacky personality doesn't have to be a virus one. See, The Naked Now was bunching them together. With DS9, what was it? Dramatis Persona, and that was like a alien artifact that was trying to take everybody over or something. So
probably one of the weakest one of those, if I had to.
It was not a great episode, but Cisco built a clock that it was really happy with. So.
And then it was one of the weakest ones, and then Enterprise went, we'll copy that one. That'll be fine.
Yeah.
We'll just have it being Archer's chair as opposed to a clock this time.
I can't even remember that episode, but you know what? I'm not bothered that I don't.
The obsession for Reed was to design a better chair.
A better
God, yes.
He said it just was a little bit uncomfortable because he was sitting forward in it, which was kind of a play on the fact that, Kirk, I think, was always sat forward in his chair ready to go and stuff. And then the solution at the end was he made it like 1/4 inch shorter.
You see,
it was not good.
See, I don't remember your synopsis. As soon as you mention my main man Reed, I'm like, oh yeah. Reed's always the character that ties the episode together. So
I mean, I don't want to say it, but English. That's all I'm saying.
well, yeah, very English as well. So we all talk
Yeah.
like that. So apart from this opening log sort of tipping us off that this is a number one episode, this is why, and I think we talked about this during Picard season 1, going way back then. The logs are a great televisual device for furthering the story. It's so easy. Like you get number one saying, right, we're off to this planet. It's this species called Illyrians who are into genetic tampering, and because of that, they're not allowed in the Federation.
Yeah, they're not welcome in the Federation.
We've lost contact with this colony, and you're like, that's brilliant, well done. And that's in.
Yeah, it's taken 30 seconds, and
Exactly.
we know what the stuff. Why they're there and what's going on.
All the way through, you can picture it as an original series episode, like that thing where Kirk and Spock have got caught on the planet. They're up on the ship trying to beam them up. They can't. They're dealing with a virus that came up from the planet. It's perfect.
Yeah.
Classic.
Yeah, it's definitely hitting all the beats, and it's very much in that mold of storytelling. Like, you could see this as a TOS, a TNG episode.
I mean, I know it's only the third episode, but the other two, I think you'd have to make some changes to make it work as an original series episode. This one, pretty much, the effects would be different.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would probably go with that, yeah. And then, we got all this stuff about genetic engineering, and obviously this is going to be a big thing throughout the episode. And what I noticed about this one, watching it through the second time, when you know what the reveals are going to be and everything, there's so much sort of foreshadowing and hints and everything coming up. And it does just cast a new light on it. Like right at the start, you have Pike says, genetic engineering always makes people feel uneasy. I can see it's affecting you, number one, as well. And, that's just great because the first time through, it's like, okay, it makes everyone uneasy and she's not immune to that. And thus she's immune to a lot of things, as we'll find out. But then when you watch it through the second time, you're like, oh, no, there's a different reason she's actually uneasy. And it's just great layered writing, and it works.
And right from the beginning, you get that feeling of like, again, the eugenics war was from the original series, but like they obviously didn't have the same social commentary. So like you instantly can see how the Federation having this unease with people who are genetically modified, even though there's good reason for them to be wary, there is some racism implied with this. There is some kind of like people being outcast just for how they're born, not for who they've chosen to be.
Like with Khan and the Augments, they've got to be something's done to them to alter them after birth.
Yeah,
to alter the genetics. And I almost got the impression that the Illyrians actually alter the genetic thing themselves.
Yeah,
she's number one said,
as if it's not actually a medical procedure, it's actually a biological.
Yeah,
something biological with them that they can change the genetics.
I got the idea that they organically basically attune themselves with their surroundings.
Yeah.
So their biology changes to adapt to their environment. And that got lumped in, which is kind of like, again, it's just kind of
because racism. What we've seen of the Augments is they're stronger and more intelligent. They might be faster, but they don't change the actual physical beings.
No,
to things and all that around them, and that seems more like a species thing. Like almost seems like it's something biological. The species.
I think it's like with the Illyrians, it's sort of an ongoing process. Like the Augments, they do all this stuff to you, and you become Khan basically. Whereas with the Illyrians, it's implied sort of, we go to this planet, so we change ourselves again to adapt to that, and then we we change.
I've got like the way how we see it with number one later. She doesn't do anything to herself medically though to change.
No, she doesn't.
Do you know what I mean? It's like it's as if it's the actual species to go somewhere, and then physically as a biological mechanism that's part of their species alter.
I thought it was more that they do use genetic engineering to adapt to whatever. Like number one, that's what we see is her immune reaction, and that's the only place I've got issues with this episode. That we talked about it earlier in the week, but we'll get there. Well, I know it's space magic, but we'll
Oh, don't even start me on this. Where his space, I literally detail what happened, and I was right. And then he goes space magic, and Jim goes, "Well, I think Elliot was right." You bastard!
Exactly what happened.
I said, "Oh, I think it's because of her proximity. That's where it works. Space magic. Yeah, you got it."
Well, yeah, but the proximity. We'll get there. We'll get there. We're not there yet.
It has TOS style loopholes.
Very much so.
By the way, addressing what you guys were saying, I think genuinely the way they've worded it, you could interpret it either of those ways. I think we'll get more clarity on that as it kind of unfolds. Yeah.
And what I found interesting about this is, again, it's not canonically, but it's always been sort of quasi-canonical that number one is not a human, she's an Illyrian. But we've never known what that means. And then
she was originally written by Roddenberry to be mysterious.
Oh yeah.
And one of his early things was that she could be a clone. That's why she's called number one, because she was the first one.
Ah, yeah.
Ooh.
That'd been cool.
Which sort of ties into this thing with genetics and all that. So it's like they've gone back to Gene's original sort of synopsis of what number one was meant to be.
Yeah,
we're not going to quite do that, but we will carry on some of it.
They've developed it a bit. Yeah, I like that.
Oh, that's beautiful. That shows, and that's not a coincidence. This show clearly is doing a lot of things on purpose to tie in with the original series. So that level of research is just lovely.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I didn't know that clone thing. That's really good. So yeah, they've taken that as a springboard and they've developed it, which is great. Then we get everybody beamed up except Pike and Spock. So just really nice, clear storytelling. Okay, this is your B plot. We've separated off these two. They're still on the planet. The A plot's going to be on the ship. But in with them now and again.
And like, if this was Discovery, you'd now have the A plot because it's the captain on the surface.
Yeah, true.
If this was Discovery, them two on the surface, that'd be what was the main thing. And you'd get, we've got a disease cured. It'd be the B plot.
and also somehow Michael would have to get back to the ship to resolve the B plot as well, because she has to be the hero of everything.
Yeah.
She's not a team player. I'm sorry, she's just not.
No, she's very much not. She's the captain. But she wasn't always the captain. She specifically didn't want to be the captain because that's never been her. She's not sure if it's ever been. And then suddenly she's captain the next episode. Don't even get me started. I thought you liked season 3. That was your favourite.
Oh, I love it. No, series 4. No, series 3 was the one I liked. Series 4 was the one I didn't, isn't it?
Yes, that's true.
Yeah.
So
don't you dare touch the season which gave me Admiral Silver Daddy Bear. It was beautiful.
Admiral Daddy Bear's awesome. It should all be about him.
Yeah. But Amethyst and Admiral Silver Daddy Bear spin-off.
Just that one.
Oh, please say. Actually, we've said before about him and Tilly going up on a buddy cop kind of thing.
That was the best bit of the finale. It was.
And where you've got the Academy show, which has been at least suggested that might be coming up, you just get him and Starfleet. That seems like a win.
That's definitely your show. But anyway, we'll see if that happens. There's going to be so many Star Trek shows we can't move for them. So they beam him up. Ortegas finds Lance smashing his head, which, as you said, Tweed, that's when you go, is this going to be the Everybody Goes Weird episode?
Yes.
But it's only a very, very brief bit of him banging his head.
There's a few weird things, though, that people do.
Yeah, there is a couple of bits, but it's all to do with light, isn't it? And then we get that scene with number one. And I wonder... serving a dual purpose, really. So the first thing she does is rip her top open. So that's,
that's fine. We like that.
Yeah, there will be a part of the audience that's just happy for that, what it is. But also, is this a reference to the fact that Kirk always ripped his shirt?
Yeah.
So I thought maybe it's a little bit of a dig at that as well.
Can I just... sorry, just because...
It's the Naked Now, isn't it? Is it Naked Now or Naked Time for TOS?
Naked Time.
Naked Time and Crusher.
No, but in Naked Time, like when McCoy's going around injecting everyone at the end to cure them, even then he's gone straight up to everyone else, no problem. But he goes to Kirk and rips his shirt because his shirt hasn't been ripped that episode.
You see, I've never thought about maybe the Naked Now, like the fact that Crusher, she pulls her top open a little bit. Maybe that's a reference as well.
Yeah, or maybe it's just a thing. Everybody takes. What is it? Is it hypothermia where you strip your clothes off just before you die because you think you're warm or something? I'm sure I've heard that.
I
don't know. I just particularly remember Crusher in that earlier episode opens up because she's flirting with Picard at the time.
I'm saying that because she's cracking on to Picard, but she'd have had a job on with them, wouldn't she? Like she wouldn't have got. What I'm saying, you're not going to show off a lot with them season 1 jumpsuits. Like
all I'm saying is, when you say she's got a job on and she's flirting with Picard, that sounds like something very different.
Okay, yes, good point. Moving on.
One thing I was going to mention. So you went past when the guy smashed his head into the glass and stuff. Sorry, I'm forgetting the name. The Houndswoman who's there. Ortegas. Yeah, she is very, very modern Earth specific sounding to our era.
Yeah.
I find that a little bit weird. It does take me out of it a little bit. She's a very good actor and it's a fun character, but it's very kind of like she's going, let your freak flag fly, or however she words it.
And there's a bit later on where the doctor says no spoilers, and I'm like, that's a very last 10 years probably.
Yeah.
Phrase. Yeah. Like, I'm not sure that's gonna stick around for the next 100 years, but
this is what annoyed me about, like, it was The Last Jedi out of the new Star Wars films, and they had like they used quite a few expressions in that, like I think he's tooling you, which the beauty of Star Trek and Star Wars always was they spoke in a language which was kind of timeless. It didn't date itself too much. I always rub up against if they used some slangs very specifically from.
I thought Poe Dameron's humor in the Star Wars sequels, like there's the bit in The Force Awakens where he's talking to Kylo Ren and he goes, do I talk first or do you talk first? And then there's the bit in Last Jedi where he's like, I'm paging so-and-so, and he's doing the whole bit about, and it's just, that's a very specifically early 21st century sense of humor.
Yeah.
It just feels jarring. So it's like, that's a joke that wouldn't have played 20 years ago, probably won't play in 20 years' time. And it does just bring you out of it for a moment.
Yeah, I mean, at least in the original series, I don't think there's much you can point to, which is like, the look and the feel of the show is very 60s, but looks come and go. Like, whereas wording seems very specific, usually to a particular era. I just don't like that. But Ortega, all they have to do is chuck in a line like Paris. She's very obsessed with the 21st century. Yeah, just give a line to explain away. It'll be fine.
Well, when we find out what tragedy,
when she has her standalone story, which I reckon will be about episode 7.
Oh,
so I'm saying it now.
Okay. While we're here, what are we betting for next episode? Whose episode is it going to be next episode?
I've got an idea. I've not had major spoilers, but I've got an idea based on some of the things that I know are involved in this next episode.
Right. So I don't even know what the next episode's called. I
don't know what it's called.
I've managed to avoid everything. I nearly opened something the other day on Facebook and I realised and sort of shut Facebook.
I'm going to go. It's either going to be the Doctor or it's going to be Spock, because I know like they must be chomping at the bit to do a Spock centric. But I'm going to go.
I think we're going to do the new engineer.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. I like him.
I like him so far. We've had very little from him, but
we've had a few bits and pieces from him.
He's very dry. I like his humour, and I like the fact that he just says things like, "Well, I am a genius."
Yeah.
Did you realise as well that guy is genuinely visually impaired?
Yeah.
Which is really great.
It does make you wonder, so what makeup are you putting on? Oh, it's just a bit of blusher, mate. Don't worry. I see this.
I do love that about him, but the only thing I do question is, like, if you're going to say, like, right, he's visually impaired, but he senses things, so he can basically act as if he's not visually impaired. Where does that get us? I wonder what, like, it'd be interesting to see if they use that in any way, because it's like, if he can basically, by by default see.
It's kind of like Daredevil.
Yeah, well, yeah, but Daredevil, he had interesting ways. Like he had a second, secret persona, which is why that made that a feature of it. How does that manifest to actually be something? Why is he visually impaired, but he can see anyway? What does that actually give us in the plot?
I presume that'll be explored, and they'd be remiss if they didn't put him in situations where he needs his sight,
Yes.
And I'm not saying that if we're presenting a character with any sort of disability that we have to play up that disability, but
no,
from a storytelling point of view, you've got to do something with it. Otherwise,
well, it's just it's the thing of I forget who said it, but some playwright said, I think my Mammoth or something, but like if you introduce a gun in the third scene, then it better be shot in the third, or pointed at someone in the third scene. So if you're going to introduce a plot point, you then have to pay that off. Again, I'm not saying anyone's disability has to be like a freak show or something.
No,
we don't want to use it like that, but it's just...
Especially on a Star Trek podcast, that you didn't correctly identify the playwright as Chekhov, who said that.
Of course.
So, you know what I mean? Any other podcast, I'd let that go, but come on.
True. It's just, again, you're right. They shouldn't exploit someone's disability, but it's like, if you're going to give someone a disability, then nullify the disability.
Yeah.
What's that then there for? It's like, I think the way they're going to probably do it, I actually wouldn't be surprised if they do it the opposite way around. So they get in a situation where they're in pitch black, no one else can see, and he's the one who can then say something because he's not relying on his eyes.
Yeah, that works as well, yeah.
But it's not to be no good if it says that you've got to cut the blue wire or we all blow up.
It can sense the blueness.
I can sense blue.
Yeah. So the rest of the team then, number one, this is one of them where you don't really know what's going on the first time. But watching it back, it's like, okay, so number one's immune system has kicked in. It's destroyed the infection. She knows she's fine, but she can't reveal that to anyone else because that'll expose her secret.
Yeah.
But
it's so good
on the rest of the team.
Because it's one of those ones where it's like, it feels like in a really good way, they've got something over you. So all the way through you're going, well, why wouldn't she just tell them that she's experiencing that? This is ridiculous that she wouldn't just say. And then at the end of the reveal, it's like, I love it.
Exactly. And there's another little bit that, again, I think the first time you go through, you're like, oh, that makes sense. But they make a big thing out of it, saying, well, the transporter filter would have filtered it out. And you just think, oh, that's just your standard Star Trek. That's there because the audience will be going, well, hang on, the transporter.
Why is the biofilter not working?
And the fact that then becomes something much, much bigger later on, I think is brilliant. And
also it kind of answers why they've got, at least for storytelling reasons, why they've got a transporter in sickbay.
Yes.
Whereas that's never been there before. Like, I still want a good in world reason why they have a transporter in the medical bay when they don't usually. It'd be nice to have that.
It makes a lot of sense to have a transporter in the medical bay.
It does, but it doesn't make sense that we don't have one in any other show or any other.
We also,
what I mean.
And this one they can get away with, as in we just didn't see it before. But, I've had to open the emergency extra bit of sick bay that's half the size of the bloody ship, by the way. We never needed that in the original series. Or what about in Naked Time when everybody were dying? No, we didn't need it. Shush. It's fine. But I do
redesigned, cutbacks were made.
Yeah. I do wonder, going back to the emergency transporter, whether this storyline will answer the question of why it's not there on Kirk's Enterprise. I wonder if the culmination of this storyline will in some way necessitate it being taken out. I don't know.
It does seem to have affected the main transporter's biofilter in an emergency.
Yeah, not quite sure how that works either, but I'm not an engineer, so However,
and then the solution was to get power directly from the warp core, which I don't quite understand how that resolves it.
Because he was a genius in your where to dumb to understand things like that.
Well, obviously, I just want a Heisenberg compensator or something like that in there.
He did go, I'm directing power from all over the ship, And we did see the lights go out in the corridors as he did the power divert, which I thought was...
But, I mean, yeah, we'll talk about it at the end when we get to the Doctor in the transporter. But there's a bit then where Hemmer is talking to number one, and he says, I can sense that expression. And she says, oh, I know. And I just thought that was a great little bit of interplay between them.
That's nice.
Then another one of these great where you realise what's going on the second time through. She's got this bit, I'm researching Illyrians. And she's looking into it and she's reading up on it. And it's like, well, yes, she is researching Illyrians, but she's also trying to understand what happened with her and the virus and whether she can use that to help the other people. So it's another great scene that works on two levels. And Lan, I'm just going to say Lan from now on. As if I'm saying Larn until I'm told otherwise. So Lan comes in.
Oh, so do you mean Laan?
That's who I mean. And
Sorry.
They finally talk about Khan, which is appropriate given this episode. We're talking about genetic engineering and things like that. So I'm glad that they addressed that.
Yeah, there's a lot of talk that we're going to get a Khan series, isn't there?
Yeah,
a eugenics series.
Yeah, I'm wondering actually, because Nicholas Meyer says that he's got a script for 6 episodes of Khan on Ceti Alpha 5.
Well, when they first brought Star Trek back and they were talking shows, it was one of the shortlisted shows, wasn't it, that they were going to do?
Yeah.
But it's sort of gone back and back as...
Well, I'm wondering, because we talked about are they going to do the eugenics wars, the birth of Khan, blah, blah, blah. You could mesh those two things together and have Khan on set, have it as a parallel story like Godfather Part 2, you know, so have Khan surviving in the wilderness interspersed with Khan being created, the eugenics wars, and you can do all that. But if you've got 6 hours of TV written by the guy who directed Star Trek 2 and Star Trek 6, you don't just leave those on a hard drive somewhere. I guarantee you that'll be good stuff. So we need something doing.
Yeah, you've got the guy who wrote two of the best Star Trek movies.
Yeah.
Mind you, may I just offer this? The genius behind Star Trek, Gene Roddenberry, may the great bird of the galaxy swing over him majestically. And from things we heard, it sounds like he may have had some challenges to his genius later on.
Yeah,
and sometimes someone can go off the boil. So I hope that's not the case, because like you say, wrote some of the best Star Trek films, but it's not always great when you revisit.
Study Spacey to do the Wharf of Khan, and he thought it was a great story. And if he's sort of gone to the next, say you wrote the Wharf of Khan as one book, and then he's finished a trilogy.
Yeah, I hope so. But again, when we're talking about trilogies, it makes me think of George Lucas, and it does make me a little nervous.
His first trilogy didn't miss a beat.
That's my point, though. His first trilogy didn't. His second one, which he wrote years later, I'm just saying, some people, sometimes they're geniuses at one stage, but then when they try and recreate it, it doesn't catch the light in the ball.
Complete tangent, but in preparation for the Obi-Wan Kenobi series, I watched episode 3 again. Oh, dear.
Oh, like, the hills are alive at the beginning. Or is that the second one?
That's the second one. But I mean, episode 3 is the best of the prequels. I will hand on heart say that. But it is still so. The last half hour is great, where you get the lightsaber fight, and that's fine. But there's so much dialogue in between that's Anyway, I got the feeling number one was maybe going to talk to Lan about herself in this scene, but then Lan gets the whole, "Ooh, I like the light," and it's one of them where you're like, "Oh, was she gonna confide in her, maybe?" But then they have to do a lockdown, and it's weird, isn't it? Like, we've seen Star Trek do virus episodes so many times, but the fact that they're doing it now, and we're so familiar with all this stuff, like, we need to do a lockdown, we've got to have contract tracing set up, and it's just so weird now hearing that terminology
Apparently, at one stage when the virus was just kind of coming out a little bit, they had, whereas they had the engine room and sick bay on tier 3, apparently the bridge was on tier 1, so they were fine for a little while.
Yeah, bridge was on tier 1, and I think Pike had like a meeting to say goodbye to a few crew members, and they had a few glasses of wine and stuff like that. But it was
a business meeting in the Red Room.
And then he threw a surprise one that none of us had heard about 4 days later.
Yeah. But he can't comment on
it. That went until the following morning.
Yeah, about 4:30, I think. And but I think, though, at the minute, Captain Pike has said they can't comment on it because Admiral April's doing an investigation. And Admiral April can't publish the results of the investigation until Starfleet Security have looked into it. And it's all very complicated. But
apparently security officers were being insulted openly as they were walking past. I mean,
I'm surprised he can say anything at the moment because there's an inquiry going on.
Yeah, people were shouting at the replicators. They were shouting at the automatic thing that beams all the rubbish out of there.
I could just picture Seagrave coming in a shuttlecraft up to the front of the Enterprise, like waving the document through the window.
Spock came back with a suitcase that were clinking at about midnight and all sorts of stuff. Anyway, Spock and Pike. We work out that the Illyrians basically decided to de-engineer themselves so that they could join the Federation, which is, we ultimately find out that led to their downfall. They couldn't fight off the virus because of that. And this sort of gets Pike thinking, the extremes that they'll go to, and that all ties in with number one.
That very bit where they realized that they de-modified themselves and all this, like, I really hope this is the perfect setup. I really want a sequel episode to this. I think there's so much rich stuff they lay down, and of course laying down the stuff with number one, they have to, and I think they have to use this example of how someone tried to change themselves to please Starfleet, and that led to this. I think this is just so rich.
I think it's got to do. And ultimately, we don't know what number one's fate is. We know by the time we get to the menagerie that Pike's still there and Spock helps him. But where's number one? Why didn't she want to help him? Do they have a falling out? Where does she go? So, we've got a lot of rich backstory for number one.
And also, the augments are mentioned in how they're outlawed in the future of Star Trek. It doesn't mention more widely, like other races which use genetic modification. It's specific to the augments, and like with Bashir, even, it's specific to him being genetically modified in that way.
It's interesting because the Federation is always, presented as an ideal, but they do seem to have these knee-jerk reactions, like
to certain things.
We'll ban all genetic engineering. Oh, that thing happened on Mars. We'll ban all synthetic life forms, and it shows that it's at least it's consistent, if nothing else, But
and that's wonderfully human. I'm really glad they include that. Like, okay, we're out there, we're doing so much better than we do in this day and age, but we still make mistakes. We still have to learn. We still have to do better. The whole Next Generation story, basically, if you look at it, especially with now Picard, the whole story of Q kind of putting humanity on trial, that's all about how we're never done. We're just doing better. And I love that about Star Trek. Yeah. It's so hopeful, but it also still says, don't stop learning humanity. You're not going to crack it. You'll just get better as you go.
Yeah, we're not the finished product yet. No,
and we never will be. Exactly. Yeah.
M'Benga, then, again, just one of these little tiny bits that you only pick up the second time through. He's really adamant that Hemmer does not look at his emergency transporter. And again, the first time through, you're like, okay, he's rushed off his feet. He just can't be bothered with all of this. And whereas once you find out what's going on, it's just a nice little detail.
And Henger getting pissed off with him was really nice. Like, just like, fine, I'll be off then. Like he's a pissed off girlfriend or sort of partner.
I'm enjoying him very much at the minute. I mean, to be fair, they could just keep him as that, just witty lines every now and again, but I suspect there's a lot more to go.
I honestly think all these main cast, because we have got a lot of main cast members.
Oh, yeah.
And I think we're going to get at least one story on each of them as the main character.
Yeah,
so
I can't see why not. We've got
and it is, and I've said it previously already with Strange New Worlds, but it seems like they've learnt the mistakes of Discovery, and they're letting us know who the crew are. It's too late for Discovery now.
Yeah, unless
Discovery, I think it'll get this last season, and I think they'll let it finish.
I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, the thing with Discovery is the characters that they have developed them really well. It's just that there's so many ancillary characters that we know nothing about, you know.
And the thing is, I kind of would love the engineer to be this sort of like, I feel like he's very set up to be the McCoy of Strange New Worlds. I think he could fit into that role very nicely, not as a copy of McCoy, because I'm glad, like when they did Pulaski, and it was just a carbon copy of the ideas behind McCoy. They put him in a different role. He's a different part of the show. His acerbic wit is different to McCoy's, but it's certainly a parallel to McCoy's kind of role in the show. I think that'd be very nice.
Yeah, and then Hemmer, he goes a bit crazy, and you get this sequence where he's trying to beam a bit of the planet core into the transporter room. And this reminded me of, do you remember the Danny Boyle film, Sunshine, with Cillian Murphy, where they've got to go reignite the sun? And that has a sequence with a guy they're in the ship and it's facing the sun, and he keeps going into the observation bay, and he keeps, like, there's a filter, and he keeps going, oh, do me the filter at 10%, and the computer's like, no, because that'll burn you to a crisp, you idiot. And he's like, okay, well, try it at 20%. And he keeps sort of upping it. And spoilers for 30-year-old film, whatever. He ends up just basically sitting and looking at the sun and gets incinerated. And it just reminded me of that a little bit. I just wonder if maybe someone's seen that, because what Hemmer's doing here is very similar to...
I think I've got that on DVD, actually.
I love the extent of the craziness, though. It's like, because, I mean, again, just thinking back to The Naked Now, when you've got Wesley comes down to the engine room, you've got one of the engineers just playing with the isolinear chips. He's basically just got to rearrange them quickly. This time, shoving that guy's performance was so great, childlike. It was so much fun. I just can picture him right now. So good. But in this one, you've got people literally bashing their head through glass, and that's the least of the reaction. You've got the engineer trying to beam a bit of the planet's core, and then you get at the end, La'an trying to ignite the warp core.
Yeah, get the warp.
These are pretty high stake.
They are, aren't they? And Hemmer, you see, going back to your point, maybe they could have done more with it this episode, because instead of him being like, right, well, I can't see, so what I've got to do is get a load of heat because I know there's light or whatever.
Yeah,
you could have had a thing of him just going completely insane. So he's like, I need light, but I have no way of seeing the light. You know, maybe. I mean, there's a lot going on this episode, so another subplot probably wouldn't have. But maybe we could have done something there.
Yeah.
Then Spock has a good line. Going back to the B plot for a minute, the creatures come in and they basically protect them, and before they're doing that, the sort of Spock's got this basically like it looks like a capsule, but it's all the reports and everything. And Pike says something like, "Oh, can you fire a laser out of that?" And he says, "I am arming us with knowledge, Captain." I thought that was very Spock.
I liked it when he first had that, and he tells the captain, he goes, "I believe this is the last records that they made before they disappeared." And Pike goes to him, "Good. Well, hurry up, and you might have a chance to read it."
Yes. It's good that we're getting. I mean, I don't want it to be just the total replay of Kirk and Spock's relationship, but you do need.
We're getting that they've got a relationship.
Yeah, which they absolutely have to do for Spock to risk everything to save Pike from the menagerie. So I'm liking what they're doing with it.
This was also for me like one of the best delineations of where Spock's USP is here, because if you're going to make Spock more emotional in this, you have to set the stall out for what his USP is as a character. I feel, and I felt like you got a bit more of it here, whereas in other episodes because they were letting his emotions show more, it kind of made him a bit more similar to other characters, and I kind of lost a bit of Spock for me. I like this one a bit better. I think they struck that balance a bit more.
Yeah, I thought, as I said, that line I thought was very, very Spock.
Yeah.
Then we get to the revelation. So number one admits that she's an Illyrian and a blood saved her. But the twist is, this is my understanding of it, is that her blood is, well, not her blood, her immune system is genetically altered so that it immediately identifies a virus, destroys it. But because it does it so well and so quickly, if you don't catch it immediately, all the antibodies are gone. So they can't synthesize anything from her blood at this point.
Yeah, that's what the doctor says, basically. That's what I got as well, yeah.
That's where we're going with that. And then Lan tries to take down the warp containment field, and this is where the space magic comes in, because the radiation comes out. So radiation's not a virus, so your body's response wouldn't be exactly the same, but never mind.
But
so
a body changes.
Number one's immune system kicks in.
And the body changes
from the radiation.
To become radiation proof.
Somehow this transfers to Lan, and she glows red as well, I noticed. Because, and the doctor says...
Space magic.
The doctor says her proximity to Lan triggered chameleonic...
I thought it was Nurse Chapel?
Nurse Chapel, sorry, yes. The proximity triggered a chameleonic immunoresponse.
Yeah, there's that.
I'll be honest, I'm not happy with this. I mean, you know...
Nurse Chapel was quick enough to get a sample from her to synthesize a cure for everyone else.
Yes.
And why they didn't...
Is that good?
But the thing it was curing wasn't the thing they're trying to cure. But my understanding of that was...
Space magic.
No, this one isn't magic, because the cells... I think the use of chameleonic's important. So I think it's basically number one, cells will adapt to anything and fix anything. And because Lan duplicated them, they managed to get them out of her body because it takes her body longer to bite things off. So I get that. What I don't get is how just standing near her transferred it. Otherwise, like when we all got us COVID jabs and stuff, and you were queuing hours, we could have just all stood in a line
the first one
and it had just gone down the line.
Yeah, because for me, I did get what they were saying was that it was the proximity. That was
I did.
But the only thing I would say is that I think they should have just said, because Lan's also genetically engineered, she had similar properties. That would have been it. That would have been a nice, easy fix. And
then she isn't really. It's a lot of generations.
Okay, because we're descended from them. Maybe there's something in her DNA which, carries forward. It's so random that this strand happened to kind of continue down the lineage.
He said something about, Illyrians radiate it. It doesn't just stay internally. It's a defense mechanism, and it's designed to cure other people around you. And
it just seems to me when you've got two genetic,
I wonder if
someone
it's
is
like it's something to do with like what we saw on the planet, how the Illyrians gathered round Pike and Spock, and they protected them from the ion storm.
Yeah,
by being around them. And I wonder if it's something like that. That
it does seem to be.
That number one's done something similar. She's sort of gone like that in front of Iran, and she's protected her.
No, I mean that's obviously what they were going for, and that's fine. It just doesn't. It could have done with just a little bit more.
Well, I'm still sticking with space magic.
I agree that
it's one of those things. It's a plot hole that you'd find in TOS.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's like when you go, and I'm sure that they've said it in the original series and have gone, some things you just can't explain.
Well, yeah.
I would just say that, I mean, what Elliot's saying with the thing about like extending her kind of aura of protection around, but they didn't really explain it like that. Like
No,
that
they
does
didn't.
make sense, but they didn't explain it like that. And also, for me, it's just the fact that you've got, sorry, I don't know why I'm beaming out right now, but the fact that you've got two people, one who is genetically modified, one who's related to genetically modified people. It seems like that's just an inbuilt excuse for why it worked. It's like you could have just said she's got something left from those genetics.
It's residual augmentation. That
you know what? I'll
That'd been
withdraw
such an easy explanation.
I'll withdraw all these criticisms if that is a development somewhere further down the line. But as such, it's just a bit weird. Like
as such, it's a big plot hole.
And I can live with it.
It's not sufficiently explained in the episode.
No.
So I am sticking to my guns. Space magic.
Oh, I agree with you. And again, though, I think, as I said last week, this is one of those things where if Discovery did this, there'd be 1,000,001 YouTube videos telling us why it's the worst TV show ever because how dare they do this? But anyway, yes. So what else do we get? Oh, yeah. So this is where we get she talks to Pike about it. And I really like Pike's reaction, which is just, well, I don't care where you come from.
Yeah, you're the best first officer in Starfleet. Why would I want to get rid of you?
Yeah, and I really like that.
There was just one line which I felt was a bit almost Kirk-esque. It felt a little bit sexist to me, where it's like, you let me worry about Starfleet, sugar tits. Like, I mean, okay, it didn't say sugar tits, but you know what I mean? It felt a little bit, you just let me worry about Starfleet, little lady.
It's interesting. I didn't read it that way.
No,
but
I didn't.
The way I read it was Pike's like, well, I've only got 10 years anyway, so if any shit's gonna come, it can all come to me, sort of thing. That was bad. I take your point.
I just wonder if maybe it would be more... think he was being a good captain and going, look, I'll look out for you. I'll fight your case.
Yeah, but it was the way he worded it. I guess I just maybe something more inclusive might have been like, we'll face Starfleet together, like, I will fight your case. Like something like that's a bit more inclusive than it's like, let me worry about Starfleet. I don't know.
It's the optics of a male character saying it to a female character that interpretation sort of lends itself, I suppose.
Exactly, and I wonder, I mean, maybe it is a purposeful, because I do like the fact that they almost do nods to the way the original series did things, even if they were less than ideal. It's almost like a little play on it, and I wonder if, I don't know, maybe I'm reading too much into that.
And there is an interesting bit where she does the log at the end. And I like that, even though, it's clear to see that Pike is the greatest guy that's ever lived, but she does question that in the log. Like she says, well, what if I wasn't the greatest first officer in the fleet? And what if I wasn't? And she uses the phrase, one of the good ones. And that's a really interesting idea. I mean, I think the answer from Pike specifically would be, he don't care. If you'd not saved all them people, it's still not an issue, But
I think that speaks more to the wider a wider context than Pike himself.
Exactly,
which is really nice. Yeah,
Pike's the best. They said in Discovery, like, that's why we didn't bring you into the post. We need the best to rebuild if we lost, kind of thing. So, of course, Pike's going to take that attitude regardless of whether you're one of the good ones in inverted commas or not, but other people might not. And much like Sisko does in The Pale Moonlight, she deletes the log at the end. And this always makes me think, like, bollocks. Like, you're not... There's a Zuckerberg somewhere in Starfleet who's reading all these logs, listening to it. I don't care if you delete it. Somebody's got access to these logs. Go away.
Well, I think they'd have to have a reason to want to audit the logs. Like, that would be an interesting plot point for the future. Like, someone is doing an audit and they find some deleted files. Like, that would be a really interesting way to have it discovered.
If it's personal logs,
There's no
It's
way.
like it's a ship log. It's like it's almost like you're writing your diary page, isn't it? With your
True,
log.
but it's going on the computer. There is no way Starfleet can't listen to that.
And yeah, how many times have we had like I mean, I can think of when Picard discovered, was it the sister ship to the Enterprise D?
Oh yeah,
and he like. I mean, that's just one example, but like, there's so many times when they've listened to personal logs after something's happened.
And when the Klingons play Kirk's personal log back.
But that was because it was recorded outside.
That was because Polaris recorded. Yeah, but then why delete it if you're that confident that a personal log's personal? You don't need to delete it. Number one.
And also, can I just say,
maybe it's that thing where you just need to say something out loud to get it off your chest.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
And then you think, right, I've said it. I feel better for having said it.
Could well be.
I do that online all the time.
Now it's gone. I don't want to have it come back and listen to it. I've done that bit.
Sometimes when a troll comment online really annoys me, or just someone doing a really obviously just stupid kind of comment, I'll write a comment and then delete it without sending it because I don't want to. I don't want to engage, but I feel better for having written it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the Doctor.
So could I just quickly the end of that scene going into the Doctor scene? I did love the little dissolve they did. Like you see.
Yeah, that was really good.
It's almost like the sets are capsule. The set.
Yeah, the transition they did between.
It's just a really nice transition.
But yeah, we find out that the Doctor has in fact got his daughter stored in the pattern buffer, and that's why he's a little bit touchy about it. And I think what you were saying,
he'll deteriorate if he's not good.
Well, he says that he keeps regenerating her every beaming her. You've got to beam her back every so often, so that. And again, that's another one where they've known that people will go, well, what about Scotty? That deteriorated, and so they've put in a line where it says, "Oh, you've just got to beam him in every so often," so they get away with that. It's an interesting concept. It's an interesting idea, and again, I think that this is going to feed into why M'Benga's not the chief medical officer. I think maybe
he's going to get demoted for it.
Either get demoted or he gets his daughter back and says, I want more free time to spend with my daughter.
That's a nice way of doing it.
I could see him getting demoted. It'd be why he's no longer the chief medical officer, which it makes sense with what he's doing.
Yeah.
But he's not getting kicked out of Starfleet, but he's got to take a demotion.
Yeah. But there's a nice sort of synergy between the two storylines as well. You've got number one confides her secret to Pike, and then she in turn learns the Doctor's secret and has the same approach to it. She's like, no, I'm not going to turn you in. I'm going to help you. And, we'll see where it all goes, but I liked it. It gives M'Benga a bit more depth than we thought.
She'll use the space magic on his daughter.
She could use the space. In fact, why didn't she do that?
Although, just one thing. When they were saying about like how this was... So basically it's an old transporter, and that's why it didn't work as well.
He didn't let them update it.
So why don't they just, when she's being materialized, replace her with a new one, dematerialize her?
Could do that, yeah. Could do that. Maybe they will do now.
Just seemed like their solution was to get more power from warp core.
Well, I think what they're doing is like giving him an independent circuit so that it doesn't cut out and doesn't interfere with anything else. Yeah. I can't remember, but didn't we earlier in this not this episode, didn't we, in the Comet episode, didn't they power absolutely everything down? So wouldn't that have turned the transporter off?
No, but he had an emergency power supply, which he just doesn't mention here.
Right, but then why does he need the power from the warp drive that number one gives him?
Because shut the hell up, Jim. That's why.
Okay, I will do.
Yeah, you might have a point there. And plus, it means every other time there's a power out on the ship, which they use in Star Trek all the time, you've got to have a MacGuffin for why it doesn't affect the transport.
Well, no, they've said this warp drive thing now, so it's like in Voyager where they said, oh, the holodecks run off a separate grid, which is why we can piss about in holodecks all the time, even though we didn't got the energy to the warp drive. So, I'm happy with it now they've addressed it. It's just, it immediately makes me go, oh, but didn't they turn everything off the other week? You know what? We'll retcon it. As soon as he knew they were turning it all off, he beamed her.
Did they turn everything all off, though, or did they just
remember.
not use anything?
Good question. It's like them lights that you get that say turn off, not in use. You're like, well, if it's not in use, it is turned off, isn't it?
But then I'm wondering why someone on the bridge wasn't going, hang on, we're still getting power drain from sickbay.
Yeah, well,
doesn't sickbay have its own power supply anyway for emergency use?
Okay, that's actually possible. That's a good
yes,
one.
that probably
like
is
that.
the case, yes.
That makes sense because they would need to for medical. Yeah,
nicely done. Go with that.
It makes sense for sickbay to have its own emergency power supply.
And that's why...
So maybe in normal use, be drawing from the main ship power, but in emergencies, it switches over.
And that's why Dr. Mbenga let 3 patients die to let his daughter live. It's a very sad story, really. Oh, they just died. What? But didn't the mountain?
He'd only cut his finger.
Yeah.
That's all that happens.
Oh, I'm sorry. Just the biobeds all went down in their row. I don't know what happened.
Space rabies, really nasty stuff. And also, it'd be remiss if I didn't bring up the fact that number 1 has now got magic blood, and everybody were very unhappy about that in Into Darkness. You know, it's worth pointing out.
I think the way it was, I've got other issues with Into Darkness, you know.
Oh yeah, I mean,
I did have one thing that I was upset about with this episode.
Go on.
When they were having the problems with the transporter, when they were trying to beam them up at the beginning, and it was just sort of powering down and then back up. Why didn't we get the flashes and the smoke coming out like we did in the original series?
Oh yeah, that'd have been cool.
Especially when they finally brought them up. It should have done that so they couldn't bring Pike and...
Yeah, that would have been good. And then you could have...
Because it was always a big thing, wasn't it, with Scotty? It's like, oh, you're gambling on a delicate piece of equipment here.
Yeah, and then he could have opened his little cupboard in the wall and started,
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I've just thought of an argument against the magic blood. With the case of number 1, she's got to be in close proximity under specific situations. With Khan's blood, if you've got enough of it, you could just cure anyone of anything. So there's a slight delineation.
Yeah, okay. Fair enough. Yeah.
Maybe Lan's got residual magic blood is why
he can, exactly.
That's what I think they should say.
Is why she had the chameleon effect.
Yeah, because I mean, basically, in fact, like the way they word in this episode is actually a really good argument why this works a bit better, because they've said as soon as she's cured herself, it destroys the thing to the point whereby they can't replicate. Whereas with Khan's blood, they could just take as many vials they want to cure anyone of anything.
Yeah,
that's a bit more bullshit.
A bit shifty.
Like I think you always, if you're going to do magic blood, you've got to write in a limitation to it, which they did here.
Yeah,
they
you have
do that.
Put a limitation on it. Yeah.
Nor did they with how far you could beam people. The Kelvin universe is so much better than the regular universe. So much.
Let's face it, it all gets back to Kryptonite with Superman. Okay, he's so super powerful. What could ever stop him? Kryptonite. That's why you invent Kryptonite. You've got to invent the limitation to your superhero.
So, next week then, did we decide whose episode it's going to be?
I think it's going to be Hemmer.
I've said the Doctor.
Right, okay, we'll see. I won't comment.
And I've said that we're going to get, what's the name who flies it?
Ortegas,
episode 7.
My guess for episode 7 is they're not going to be able to wait any longer to do a Spock-centric. I know they're itching at the bit to do it.
But that could be the week after, so that's not.
Yeah, that could be 5 or 6.
No, I reckon next episode is going to be a new character, and then they're going to go to an old character. So they've done a horror. They want to do a couple ones with new characters, and then they'll go back to a legacy character.
We'll see.
So we've had number 1 this time. That's why I think we'll do a couple of new characters in a row.
Yeah, I mean, number 1 is pretty much a new character. Okay, she was in the cage, but let's face it,
she was also in Discovery.
Yeah,
I'm just saying she's basically
that's the thing. It's like,
but we're talking about
Spock number 1 and Pike in Discovery. I know we had more of Pike and Spock, but
And my argument to that is like you've got 2 episodes or like a handful of episodes at best, like maybe 3 or 4 episodes maximum that you've used number 1 and before total. Whereas with Spock, you've got so many episodes, and Pike is a lot more explored. Number 1 is still pretty much virgin territory.
Mm-hmm. So I think that about does us for that one. If you want to get in touch with us, you can find us on Facebook, search for Retrek. You can find us on Twitter at RetrekPod, or you can email us retrekpod@gmail.com. Dr. Squee, you've got the Dr. Squee show.
I do indeed. Yesterday we spoke to some of the producers behind Bond. To be honest with you, the podcast sort of gone by the wayside. To be honest with you, it was just too much hassle to put it together. So you've just got the video and the radio show now. So listen to me and whichever guests. Hopefully we're going to either be bringing you Bond Girls or the LRLO cast, which still haven't been released on the Dr. Squee show in the next couple of weeks. So yeah, please tune in on Tuesday at 6 p.m. sw20radio.co.uk. That's UK time 6 p.m. So whatever time it is in your local time,
plus or minus. It could be the next day somewhere. Ooh.
It could be indeed. Those Australian time traveling convict bastards.
And we've just lost. Thanks for trekking with us this time, and we'll see you next time on the Retrek.
Thank you.
LLAP. Bye-bye.